evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Mahoning Drive-In Theater, the largest single-screen drive-in in the United States. We're certainly glad you could be with us this evening, and don't forget the concession stand is open with all kinds of great things to eat and drink.
All right, 89.3 Mahoning Drive-In Radio, your old friend Virgil back with my co-host Mark. Say hello, Mark.
Hello, Mark.
But we have a very, very special episode for you guys because we have two extra special guests in the room who I consider to be part of the Mahoning family and really Mahoning Uber fans. So, fellas, say hello. We got Carl in the house.
Yeah.
And we got Darryl in the house.
Hello.
Yeah. So why don't you guys tell the audience what makes you such Mahoning fans? I'll start with Darryl because he's got a really good story from this season.
And a mouthful of beverage.
Yes.
Wait, where do I start? Are you talking about the 100th movie?
That's definitely a good signifier of how big a fan you are.
Yeah, so what was that, back in April? I think I hit 100 movies, total movies seen at the Mahoning going back to 2015.
Amazing.
Now, I have a drive similar to what Mark used to have, so I'm talking 3.5 hour drive one way.
Yeah.
So it wasn't easy to hit those 100 movies. One year, in fact, my job was so crazy, I only got here twice.
Yeah.
And saw 4 movies. But I got that 100,
Yeah.
and I celebrated in style here. You guys were totally into it. I said, I've been tracking my movies on Letterboxd. I think I'm hitting 100. I'm like, what if I write a sign and then do a pick and maybe get a little something started where there's like sort of a challenge.
Yeah.
How many movies have you seen?
Yeah.
And so that was a lot of fun. You guys embraced it, and we did a little celebratory photo op. And also, Mark brought the Orangeette.
Which I think should come back here and be served.
Yeah, which is a story itself.
Well, Darryl was always a fan of Orangeette, which was this budget Walmart orange soda that Matt used to buy.
Yes.
And when we didn't have it, Darryl would always ask about it. And I was never sure if it was jokingly or if it was out of the desperate pining for budget orange cola. And it's been a running gag for years now since we haven't had Orangeette. And I thought, what better way to celebrate the man and the milestone than a 1 to 2 liter bottle of Orangeette.
There it is, the way to anybody's heart.
Presented as though it was roses to Miss America.
It was.
Well, that was a great night, and the thing I loved about that sign is that you had stats on the back. How many miles you drove.
This is true.
How many flats you've had. How many car repair. It's like...
Speeding tickets, 1.
Yes! Like, stuff like that, as Mark can attest to, is like, that's the commitment level to a Mahoning fan. It's not convenient for many people to get to, but when you have people who drive hours upon hours to be here with their people, it speaks so much to what we do.
Do you recall what your first Mahoning show was? What finally got you... For a lot of people...
What hooked your heart?
People knew about us, or this place, before it was an us for me. And there would be one show that you're like, okay, I can't miss this one. Like, a lot of people will follow the listings, and then there's one show that's like, okay,
you got me.
It's time.
Time for me to make that 5-hour trip.
Yeah, well, we're going back to 2015.
Mm-hmm.
The backstory on that is how I met Harry. I befriended a local film programmer, Paul Kazee, maybe 15 years ago. Mm-hmm. Right? And then we started going on little road trips. I had gone on road trips before to concerts all over the Northeast, so I have many years of road trips. Road trips to see movies in a theater or a drive-in was a little different. I had to get over that, I've seen that movie, why would I want to drive 2 hours, 4 hours, 8 hours to see a movie in the drive-in?
Right.
So we do end up there, but it was Harry. Harry was doing all these shows, and he eventually helped out with a show that I was helping out with, Paul, the Dead Till Dawn show.
Yes.
So we would go wherever Harry was going. So we went to the Exhumed shows in Philly, April Ghouls out at the Riverside,
right.
which was an 8-hour drive. So it was a natural when we heard Harry's doing films down at this drive-in. It's only 3.5 hours. Oh, we're there. So
That's easy.
Right? So the first Zombie Fest, we came just for the Sunday, the last night of Zombie Fest, the first one. Because we hadn't seen those movies, whereas the night 1 and 2, we had seen some of those. So we're like, let's go for the... And I think that might have been the first time I met Mark. It was definitely 2015 when we met up.
I think I knew Paul briefly from seeing him at the Riverside Monsterama shows and attending Dead Till Dawn. So it may have actually been here. Yeah, he may have introduced me to you at the time. And you had a fun story, too, that you've told. Well, not fun at the time, of the amazing trip you took down and back and having to, like, get an infinitesimally small amount of sleep before going to work the next day.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we're talking about a couple years in now. Now that the bug bit me, I found my people. I think it was the third or fourth year in. That year I only came twice down to the Mahoning because of my job. The hours were terrible. And I said, I can't go an entire summer without going to the Mahoning. So I said, oh, screw it. I'm just going to go. And then I'll, have to work the next day. I didn't call out. I actually drove down the 3.5 hours. I don't recall what the show was. I know one was double feature Kubrick.
Yes.
And what was
Clockwork Orange in 2001.
Yeah, that one. So I did it twice
great.
that summer. I actually, after the movies, drove to work. So I had the 3.5 hours home after the last movie.
Directly to work.
Directly to work.
Oof.
And then I drove as the sun's coming up because I would work 6 a.m.s on a Sunday. So I'd literally drive by my house, go to work, change my shirt, drag my ass through the day, and I did it twice. It was brutal, but I couldn't go a summer without the Mahoning.
That commitment.
Yeah.
And that commitment level is what it means to be a Mahoning fan. You have to make a point to be here, make some crazy changes to your life and your schedule to make this happen. But let's jump over to Carl. So Carl is a huge part of the Mahoning family. Not only does he help us with projects on the lot, is he a resident DJ? He's a regular volunteer, as Darryl is. But what is your intro to the Mahoning? How did you fall in love with the Mahoning? Because I literally consider you one of those staple faces. If you are not here, it's not a Mahoning show.
No. Well, oddly enough, I met Darryl turned me on to the Mahoning.
Crazy.
I met Darryl at the Alamo Draft House in Yonkers. Him and Paul were handing out flyers for their Coxsackie show, the Dead Till Dawn show. And I started going to that show. And then in passing, Darryl said, there's this place in Pennsylvania that plays all 35. And I was like, get out of here. I said, where is this? And then he told me about it. And he said they're actually having this big show on Memorial Day weekend. It's called Zombie Fest, and it was Zombie Fest 2.
Amazing.
And I was like, I got to get down there. I got to do this. So I did it. I came. Zombie Fest 2 was my first show, and I had an absolute blast. As everyone knows, I don't like a lot of stuff.
Carl hates
and I
If you've ever been to what we call the spoiler stall in the men's room, it's filled with graffiti, mostly spoilers for movies. It started organically, but then at some point somebody just scrawled, "Carl hates everything."
And I said this once, I'll say it 1,000 times. You've made it in life when your name hits the bathroom mirror.
Facts.
Yeah.
By the way, that has been updated. Carl hates the world except for
Stray cats.
Stray cats.
Someone added that one, which is true.
He's a fan of Brian Setzer's.
That's what I thought at first, and I'm like, no, it's a lot, cats.
Yeah. We get a little kitty out here.
But yeah, Zombie Fest 2 was my first show. I was hooked immediately. I believe the next show I came to after, there was a few shows I missed because work, time, life, all that nonsense. And I came back for the first Romero weekend.
Yes.
And that played to like an audience of like maybe 30 people at the time, if I'm not mistaken, Mark.
Do you remember what the films were?
Yes, I do. It was 2 movies, 2 nights.
Yep.
It was, help me out, Darryl. Night of the Living Dead.
Yep.
followed by
Was it the Crazies?
the Crazies.
Yes.
Night
Night
2
Riders.
was Night Riders
Yes.
and Day, right?
Day of the Dead.
Day of the
I
Dead.
think that's it.
And that was also the first time I met the Drum Boys too.
Crazy.
That first night at Romero weekend, and it was me and Darryl were like, Darryl was the only person I knew here.
Yeah.
And then the Drum Boys just came over and said, hey, as you know, because I've experienced this when I used to go to concerts a lot too. You start going to enough shows, you become a familiar face. Just people just come up to you and say, hey, and that's how you make friends. And I'm like way out of my comfort zone. I'm not really a real sociable person. You never think so, because you can hear me screaming and yelling all over the lot constantly to this day.
If you're ever here and we run the famous and popular Puppies and Kitties reel, and you hear some maniac scream puppies and kitties,
and bunny kicks,
that would be Carl.
that would be me.
You'll know.
He's also part of the Rico's patrol.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Rico hits the
Rico's
screen.
love.
Yeah.
Also, if you've never been, Rico's Nachos, we feature a vintage, I think 1980. We're going to get to the bottom of this, but I think it's 1980 on-screen ad commercial for Rico's Nachos. It has become beyond a cult
Legend.
thing here,
Yes.
where people cheer and they scream. Carl particularly screams the word Rico, and people love it. And we're close with the Rico's Corporation. Anyway, please continue.
Yeah, so Romero was my second show, and then my third show that year, and that show is near and dear to my heart for a few reasons. It was Star Trek weekend.
Ooh.
And that was
Talk about a light crowd.
yeah, that was a very light crowd.
How
And
light was it?
Pretty light.
It was
Pretty
so light,
Yeah.
it put mustard on its blank.
little Gene Rayburn action going.
Would you
There
like
go.
to tell the listeners about how the evening ended and your personal story with that about Star Trek weekend? Because we showed it 4 films over 2 nights.
No,
Right?
It was 6 films.
Was it
over-
6 films.
6 over
It was the
6.
6,
Okay.
3 and 3.
Okay.
And they were a long 3. The night one was Star Trek 1, 2, and 3. Amazing. Enterprise porn for motion picture. My love for motion picture, even though everyone poo-poos it, is out the door.
Yeah.
It's deep and out the door.
First time I saw that, a friend had it on Laserdisc. We watched it, and I'm like, "Are they ever going to get to the ship? It's approaching. It's approaching. It's approaching. It's approaching." I get it now that it's fans who had grown up with the show are getting to see this on the big screen, looking
Yeah.
more real than ever, and you're soaking up and drooling over every inch of that ship. But as an indifferent viewer in the late '90s, I was like,
Get to the ship
do they
already.
get it? This is the extended version. It's all just more shots of the ship. Anyway, you were saying.
Yeah. Night 2 was Star Trek 4, 5, and for some reason you guys couldn't get a print of 6, so
We
you had
snuck in Nemesis. I think,
Nemesis. Yeah. And however, towards the middle of 5, a nice big frothy fog rolled in.
Oh, yeah.
And it got worse and worse and worse. And then by the end of Star Trek 5, you couldn't see anything.
Yeah.
It was just a
Dancing
big blur.
in the cloud.
Yeah. And so I was like, I was really bummed. I was with my then ex at the time, Adrian, because she was a big Star Trek fan. And so we're like, oh man, this is going to be a real bummer. Should we just go home? And I said, no, this is 3, because I drive 3 hours. Every which way I drive 3 hours, door to door.
Yeah.
So, but then it was Matt and
Corey.
And
I was
knocked
there.
on my window. Mark was there too. Knocked on my window. I rolled my window down. I'm like, what's up, guys? And they're like, hey, if you guys want, being that this is like a total fog fest, we're going to play Star Trek 6 on VHS in the concession stand.
Yes.
If you guys want to come in, just bring your chairs. And we're like, okay.
This is a unique
So I'm
play.
like, and I was so touched by that gesture, because you guys didn't have to come over here and bang on my way. You can
Sure.
let me suffer and watch a blurry movie in the fog.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Jeff was running it no matter what, because that's Jeff. He's gonna run it.
Sure.
But So I was like, let's complete it, man. Let's go see 6 inside. So it was us and maybe about 8 to 10 other people in the concession stand.
And folding chairs.
And
it was an old pop-up screen like you'd look at your home slides on. And a single video projector, which is what led to the digital booth later
Correct.
on.
A standalone low-end projector.
But I mean, the image size was smaller than the average TV now.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
And what wound up happening, because it was such a light crowd, is you essentially had everybody who showed up in the concession stand. The film was playing to one woman in her car who was asleep. Everybody else came in the concession stand and was watching a pan and scan, was it?
It must have been.
Probably pan and scan VHS tape of the movie they all wanted to see. Anyway, continue.
Yeah, but that was amazing. And like I said, what touched me was that you guys came out, invited me in, and I was like, this is my place.
Yeah.
I'm home.
Yeah.
And that was the real cement that like said, this is it. So I've ever since then, I try to make every event I possibly can. And because I'm hooked, and I love this place to death. And mostly for the 35, but also everyone here.
It's about the people, and your explanation of meeting the drum boars, that happens every single night, where I assume, oh, this person called this person, they're friends, they know each other, this is their meetup spot. It's just the place they're coming, and now gather here all together. So it's this really great meeting ground for like-minded fans, purists. I think you're the perfect person to talk about 35 millimeter purism.
Oh,
because
absolutely.
Even though occasionally the Mahoning is backed into a corner and has to play something digital, we know we won't be seeing Carl that weekend.
And the more notice, the better.
Yes.
If and when that happens. But things do arise, and as I've witnessed firsthand here, where last minute, where's the print?
Right.
Never came.
We're watching this in the concession stand on tape.
Yeah.
Those days are mostly.
Right.
So it's where are we going with this? 35. I have become a real 35 snob. Not ashamed to admit it. No bones about it. If I'm going to a theater, any theater, if it's not film, I'd rather not go because I don't feel like spending the money. I mean, this is my personal take. Everyone can say, "Oh, but it's the camaraderie and it's the audience." No, I'm there for the movies.
Right.
I'm not. I mean, I'm here to hang out also beforehand and after. But what's most important to me is the image on that screen. And for me to come out and drive 3 hours, it has to be 35, and this is the place to do it. Because I notice when other places they're doing solely digital, or they're doing someplace that do film, they're doing less and less and less. I'm like, it's not worth it to me.
Yeah.
So I will come here. This is the only for me. It's the only game in town right now, other than my own backyard, because I have a little print collection too.
Right.
So, and I show my 16 stuff in the backyard. I just had a party last weekend, and everyone had a great time. Other than that, I come here.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much
And
it.
that's a great way to put it. Is when we had Andy on, he talked about party in the back, business up front. You guys
We're the
are
mullet
literally, yes. You guys are literally the front row crew. You would run the front row crew if we had, this hierarchy. But the people in the front row are dedicated to that film. They are watching that film. They are serious about that film. And it's one of those things where you have multiple dynamics on any night. Last night's a great example. So we were all watching Terminator together. Everybody has been waiting for this print to come up on screen. And you have just a rowdy, loud, obnoxious crew going on. And they may love the movie too, but their way of enjoying it is so much different than the way that you guys enjoy it. Because I hear it. You guys are up there still having fun, still having the conversation at the right moments, but you're in it. It's not this thing where it's like, oh, we're partying here and the movie's just on in the background.
No. That's what's most important to me. And fine example of last night, and it's it's great having that big screen, but man, that thing is like
it catches sound.
It catches sound and throws it at you like nobody's business. Yeah. I mean, I hear on a nice night, I can hear people all the way in the back, like they're sitting right next to me some nights. Yeah. I mean, it's just the way it is. But yeah, last night was a little too rowdy for my taste, and I'm usually the guy that tells everyone to shut up or shut your headlights off or don't drive on the lawn. That was another one. I caught a guy doing that. Stay off the grass. Stay off the grass. Yeah, I'm the old man yelling at the cloud.
I love it.
And because I care about the place too. Like I'll even I pick up my own cigarette butts because I care about this place so much. I carry my own ashtray around, and I'm big on garbage around here because I put it away like everybody else and picked it up. And then even when I wasn't volunteering, some days I come here and there's trash everywhere, and I'm like, you jerks,
bastards,
you bastards. I don't know what the level of.
No, it's true. You can always tell the first timers or the people who don't get the culture we're building here. But that's a great point. Is coming from a first run theater situation, they'll trash a theater and not even think about it. Where here, you get so much respect and people thinking about that as a foresight to be like, I'm gonna bring an extra trash bag. Or they don't do it, then they get shamed by Carl.
Yeah.
Then they remember the next time.
Oh, especially if I'm DJing that night, because I started doing this a few shows ago, where I was DJing, and I was like, you know what? I've had it because I see what the guys on the lot do now, and the hell they go through to pick up everyone's trash.
Oh yeah.
From all over this big lot, and like I said, I've done it. You've done it. Mark's done. We've all done it. And I was like, I got to get on the air. I got to say something. I mean, I first mentioned it in Facebook, and Beth from the concession stand was like, "Do it. I will give people bags if you announce that." And I started doing it, and I'm going to continue to do it because, I want to see this place do well. I don't want to see it basically. I want to see shit on. Yeah. And I just like people just take care of the place. You love it so much, like we do. You love coming here. Right. Just pick up after yourselves. I don't mean to turn this into a big environmental thing, but it's just one of the things that grinds my gears.
Well, that's a nice segue into the radio setup for you. Again, you've become a staple here. We have several staples that are on the air on a regular basis, but for a Harry Exhumed weekend, you can expect to hear Carl, you can expect to hear Mike, but taking the radio show to the next level and being that informative voice in people's ear, it goes a long way. I took a note from you as far as always making a point to tell people about headlights. Every night I have to have the lot crew do a sweep as soon as the movies start to find those people that inevitably don't know how to turn off their driving lights. So the radio show is a really great opportunity for us to be like, hey, here's some things to actually know instead of getting, your entertainment of music. Here's these bits of information that are important to know about the night, the specials, the offerings, whatever. And I think that's elevated what we do here in such a big way. People expect it now to be like, I'm coming early to get that pre-show radio show, It's part of what we do.
Yeah, I've like heard people in passing, "Oh, you're DJing tonight. Oh, awesome. I'm excited."
I love it.
And I've even heard people saying on their ride in, they're seeing if they can catch it at the right moment, like getting near Walmart, they turn it in. And they knew I was DJing based on what I was playing.
The selections,
yeah.
Totally.
And then they're like, "That's got to be Carl. That's got to be Carl." And then I come on, and they're like, "Oh yeah, that was Carl."
Well, how did that start for you?
Well, I used to DJ in college, in community college, where I started taking communications classes. I really wanted to be in film, and I took communications classes first.
Very familiar.
Yeah. And, they got me in on radio. And I've always been a student and a fan of radio from being a little kid.
Same.
And broadcasters and how people speak and all that, that's always top tier to me, is like enunciation and all that other stuff. Even though I don't sound like it because I'm from New York, the accent creeps in every once in a blue moon. And then I did it there. And then when I eventually got into film school at SUNY Purchase, I jumped in on radio there. They kicked me out, by the way, because it was a little too clicky for my taste, and they didn't like me playing Cecil Taylor in like 3 a.m. That's basically it. I told this big story to Mark about my whole time in radio there, and then I just got disgusted with it. I said, well, I'm here to make films, at the time, and I was like, I just want to focus on that, and to hell with the radio. I was just doing it for fun,
right?
And because I love music,
sure.
And then I see, before this wasn't even here. This the DJ setup,
Right.
and then all of a sudden Jeff had this in here, and I was like, holy cow! I said, I haven't seen one of these boards with the booth and the turntable. I haven't seen that since community college and college radio. Oh my god! And then I saw you on it, and then eventually I saw Mike Evans on it. And Mike Evans, to me, I hold him up here in broadcast tiers,
Right.
Yeah.
because he's done it for 25 years.
a pro, right.
He's a total pro, and I just love listening to him. And I was like, wow, I wonder if I can do that. I actually mentioned to you, I was like, I wonder if I can do that. And you're like, hey, just put your name on the calendar.
Check
Pick a
out the
day.
calendar. Yeah.
And my first day doing it, and I did it, and my first day doing it, I was sweating like nobody's business. I mean, you can ask Tracy how nervous I was when I first did it. I was like practicing in the hotel room.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, I started doing all the voice exercise. I was like, I have to drink hot beverages all day to keep my throat okay. I was doing the whole thing.
Yeah.
I was that nervous because I haven't been on air at that time in over 25 years.
Right.
And then at first I was rusty as hell. I was like, but I remembered how to queue up records. All of my training just came back like riding a
Training
bike.
wheels, yeah.
The on-air stuff, not so much. It took some time to get back to where
Madman Carl.
Yeah, Madman Carl, where I'm comfortable. And then because I know Jeff was in broadcasting and on radio for many, many years. And I kept looking over to him like,
Is this okay?
What am I doing wrong?
Right.
And then he gave me the nods, and he says, you're getting better as time went on. During that first initial set. And then me and him just go back and forth between me playing records. We're talking about music and this and that. Oh, do you have that 45? When did you get that 40? Where did you get it? Da, da, da.
Oh, yeah.
And we're just talking about records and music, and I'm just having a blast in here.
Yeah.
And I love doing it. And then it just, I guess, blossomed, so to speak, to where I'm requested, I guess.
It's a great extension of the experience, and I love the fact that Mark says it all the time. It's a way for us to get to know other people's tastes, where you hear these different collections or tastes and genres of music, the stories people tell, those interstitial things. I've always recorded them, as long as we had the means and we brought in the extra microphone. That's all stuff that's beautiful, like Prosperity, where we can listen to that years from now and be like, remember that Planet of the Apes show? I have the DJ set from that, or
Oh, wow.
whatever it is, But that's what we started doing with all the guest DJs now, too, because we're like, this is like really a legitimate, fun show that, it's great to capture and possibly put it out there to the world eventually.
Oh, that's great.
But let's talk about your guys' together trips to the Mahoning. You guys definitely have become close as far as your Mahoning camaraderie. But the thing that I always see online is your infamous breakfast trips. Why don't you talk about your regular meeting spot?
In the Boulevard Diner.
The Boulevard.
On every day except, Monday mornings?
Except Mondays.
Right.
We try to give love to the Beacon
Damn right.
because Chris loves this place too.
Yeah.
And we love her.
And we love Rick.
And
Yep.
I keep forgetting his name. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Sorry, Rick. So we try to spread the love, but the Boulevard is basically, our opinions, our jam.
Right.
So we usually meet up there for breakfast, and we come up with we just talk about stuff, mostly
Shoot the
movies
shit.
and music,
Of
Right.
course.
Right.
and because that's basically our mainstays of interest, and we developed into doing top 5 lists, but that actually didn't develop at the Boulevard. That developed in my house when I was
Yeah.
recovering
Yep.
from gallbladder surgery.
Crazy. I didn't know that.
Darryl came to my house and spent almost a week with me.
Yeah.
And Tracy at the time, and we just started. Darryl was just perusing my DVD and Blu-ray collection, which is huge, and
I would shoot out, hey, what's your top 5 Scorsese? What's your top 5 Herschel Gordon Lewis? And we would do that all the time.
yeah, and it just started. We just started doing it. Okay, top 5 Altman, top 5 that we just hit each other with it. Top 5 whatever.
Yeah.
And then that's become that like kind of morphed into our breakfast chats during breakfast. got to come up with a top 5 list for breakfast, and sometimes he forgets, sometimes I forget, and then but Darryl's lately has been like making note of what we said, because I can't remember yesterday for half the time anymore.
I feel it.
So, but because it always changes, and it's not like that's it and that's all. The hell with yous all. But it's an opinion. It's a taste. It's a thing. And then we post it on the Facebook.
Everybody everybody goes nuts.
And everyone goes nuts. Yeah. Well, you didn't include this, or you didn't include that. And then it's like, yo, guys, come up with your own list then. Write it below. Comment below.
Yeah. Right. That whole point is to start a conversation about stuff we love. And you'll notice it's never top 5 best movies. It's always favorites.
Yeah.
Because it's more about what
that opinion.
And that reveals some of your personality too. You were talking about that.
God, yeah.
Where we exchange what's your top 5 and you get into the why. I saw that movie as a kid. I stayed up late, whatever it was.
Connection.
And it brings the stories out.
Yeah.
And it just brings you closer. And it's fun on Facebook, obviously, where people chime in.
It's caught people's heart. I gotta say, like, I look forward to it whenever you guys are here. I'm like, I hope they're doing a breakfast run, because I want to see what their top 5 is. But it's great because you started putting the graphic on the Mahoning screen.
I did. I'm trying to come up with other ideas, with the graphic.
This really fun idea and extension, again, of what we do. I always say, I love, after a long, crazy weekend, going through social media and seeing these pockets of fun that people had. They're insane moments that are being shared on their personal pages. But for you guys, it takes it beyond what's happening on the lot to be like, the camaraderie that we are about and we stand for carries over to these guys and their conversation throughout the day and their relationship. I just love it. And when Mark and I were talking about it, we said, you guys should really do a podcast. Work this top 5 thing. We always used to joke that the best podcast would be Carl Hates Everything. Not just it writes itself, the sitcom coming to NBC soon. But
and for the record, I don't hate everything. I'm very particular.
Yes, that's what I say too.
I'm very particular, but I don't just say I hate it to hate it.
Sure.
I give reasons. I'm not like one of these guys that says, "Oh, I hate it. It sucks. It's rubbish. It's this. It's that." If you ask me, I'll give you straight up reasons. I'll give you straight up reasons as to why I don't like it, what problems I had with it,
right?
And not just I hate it. I don't like it.
Right.
Not in my backyard. That type of stuff.
Well, that's the stuff I love about, again, these top 5 lists is it may be things where it's like, hey, the top all 5 worst experiences at a movie theater or whatever. It's very focused in on you guys, your opinions, your personalities, and it's a great kind of crossover. So Mark put it out there as far as having you guys on the show, because I think this is a perfect opportunity for us to do a top 5, right?
Oh, yeah.
Hells yeah.
By the way, I have no problem telling Carl when he's wrong. I might be the only
Or I you, sir.
Yeah.
It's good friends.
Yeah, we're good friends. So I can say, you're just wrong, Carl. I have not a problem with that.
I still like the Medea movies. That's all I gotta say.
Wow, they're talking about a bombshell, folks. You got it here first.
Yeah,
you got it here first.
You can't predict what Carl loves or hates.
Well, do you guys have any interesting things that are on the docket or on your... do you guys come up with some of these top 5s or on the spot all the time?
For me, it's sometimes on the spot. Like, I was actually a funny one that I came up with is because we were trying, me and Val were trying to come up with something for Darryl for a dessert.
Oh, yeah.
For his birthday. His birthday weekend was a Mahoning weekend.
Yes.
Surprise.
And Val asked me, she says, what kind of desserts is he like? I said, you know what? I have no idea. I said, but I'm going to find out. So early that morning, it was we were just hanging out on the lot. It was early in the morning, just hanging out. And it was me, my friend Angie from Long Island, and Darryl. And I was like, he walked away to do something, and I said, I got it. I got how I'm going to get him. I said, I'm going to come up with a top 5 dessert.
Perfect.
So I hit him with it. And he almost got angry with me. He was like,
what?
Who hits someone with that at like
early in the morning?
Early 8 o'clock. It had to be like 8 o'clock in the morning.
What does that have to do with movies?
Yeah, what does that have to do with anything? And I said, I need to know the top 5 desserts. I said, come on, don't even think about it. Just go. And then he he got them out.
Do you remember what they were? There were some oddball.
Oh, I'm sure.
I don't even remember what mine were.
Cheesecake was on there.
Cheesecake.
Strawberry
cheesecake. Set number 2 was the pie with the melted Swiss.
Oh, apple pie with Swiss cheese and I think vanilla ice cream or something. Something I saw on a menu in Burlington, Vermont, but they never had it. They were always like, "I'm sorry, we're out." I'm like, "Oh, someday I will have that."
It made your top 5 and you never had it.
Yeah, right. Right? Cookie Puss was on there. You got to give props to Carvel and the Beastie Boys. Cookie Puss. Yeah. You're right. I'm trying to think what the other 2 were because it was tough. I'm like, desserts. I'm not a dessert
That's
guy.
a unique one.
And then obviously I found out later what that was all about. And I'm like, you dick.
Down the way.
Right? So you guys surprised me with strawberry cheesecake from someplace in Pennsylvania, like an hour
Pocono
away.
Cheesecake Company. Or Pocono Cheesecake Factory or something like that. Yeah.
Right. Val drove
They're
like an hour away to get this cheesecake. And man, that was something else to go out of your way. And then they topped it. The next morning, we're doing a top 5 at the diner.
At the Beacon.
And then
at the Beacon.
At the Beacon. And Mark and Val send over that slice of apple pie with the Swiss
cheese.
Yeah.
Well played. Well played.
And Chris and the whole staff came over and sang
that
happy
was
birthday
so
with Darryl.
embarrassing.
Happy birthday to Darryl.
Yeah, that
with
was,
his slice of pie with one singular candle sticking out the top. And he didn't even think it was for him.
Yeah, I'm like, tell me these people are walking that way. Oh, so embarrassing.
That's
fun.
amazing.
I appreciate it, but it was embarrassing.
Yeah.
But it was
I
fun.
don't like that attention, but I appreciate where it came from.
Did you come prepared with any top 5 lists for today?
Well, we did.
Oh, yeah.
The most challenging one being, this one's tough. It could be top 5 favorite Mahoning events.
Wow. That's a good one.
I mean, I love them all, but
That's a really good
right.
one.
I think we tried to do specific. I'm not sure if my list is that specific. So you could pick something
That's
like Camp
really
Blood,
good. Yeah.
and then say the 2018 version or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's our first one. We obviously had to do a tribute to the Mahoning. So top 5 favorite Mahoning events.
I love that.
I knew you would.
All right. Top 5 Mahoning specific events. My first one, of course, I got to stay true to my first visit. Zombie Fest 2.
Yes.
Because that played a lot of 35mm buckets for me. Bucket list items, The Children, Psychomania, The Beyond. Also, one of my near and dear friends who's gone, I think everyone knows him, Jimmy Terror. He came out of his way and sat with us for night 2,
Amazing.
me and Darryl.
This is the last time I saw him.
I saw him one other time after that, a couple of times actually, but that meant the world to me that he came as sick as he was because he was an uber horror fan.
Yeah.
And he sat with us and we had a blast.
That's awesome.
So that's my number 1. Zombie Fest 2. That was 2006, Memorial Day weekend 2016.
Wild.
Okay, we referenced this earlier, and this goes back to my childhood. This is like pre-Star Wars, pre-franchise films, the Go Ape weekend.
Wow.
That is
Go
my
Ape weekend.
That's my biggest regret of the show.
You missed it?
I had to go to a family reunion.
Yes, I remember.
And I wore my Go Ape T-shirt to that, but I couldn't make it. And that's the number 1 show I wish I could have come to.
Whenever somebody shares that marquee or talks about it, you can always expect
Right
Mark
up
to
there
be
in
like,
the
oh,
poster.
it's killing
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
Well, Go Ape is right to come back. That was 20.
That's cool.
That must have been 2015.
2015, it is. It's the first
That
summer
was
I
year
came
1.
here.
That was year 1.
I went for year 1. I got to pick one. I wanted to go with my first show, but I'm like, I got to go Ape
That
weekend.
was a really fucking fun weekend.
That was
Really
all the
fun.
Planet of the Apes movies split between 2 nights, plus
Right.
the recut, exploited, ballyhoo, shyster version of Tombs of the Blind Dead, retitled
Oh,
as
yeah.
Planet
Return from Planet Apes.
That was the
or
Planet Ape.
Yeah.
Revenge of Planet
Planet
Apes.
Ape, yeah.
Which is essentially, Harry has a print, it's essentially just this prologue that's tacked
Yeah.
on, changing the story, saying that these are the ghosts of dead apes rising from the tomb.
Yeah.
And then Tombs of the Blind Dead just plays.
Just goes, yeah.
And they just replaced that in the title.
So
It's
Yep.
brilliant that he did that.
So, I'm a little bit older than you guys, but to know the love I have for Planet of the Apes, I mean, I did get to see the final Planet of the Apes film Battle in a theater, but most of those played on TV endlessly. And the toys, I think that was the first movie that really had toys and stuff.
Right.
So to see it here, all 5 films, 35 millimeter, I think I actually brought some of my toys out, some of the comic books.
Yeah.
That was great. Again, I'm glad to hear it's right for
It's right
another
there.
play.
That's what we always show. There's certain events that we say we could do these every other year.
Right.
But because we're limited on the weekends that we have, that one has gone now 6 years since we've done it. So it's like, I think it's more than time to go ape again. You know?
Oh, hell yeah.
Okay. I'll be here. I'll be here.
Especially if Mark missed it.
Yeah.
So.
Let me know so I can take off.
Number 2, already mentioned before, but I'll say it again. Star Trek weekend. That was July 8th and 9th of 2016. I think that is ripe for a comeback.
That's true.
I was just fantastic. And of course, near and dear to my heart, Corey and Mac coming over to me and inviting me inside, which like totally broke my heart.
Welcome
in a good
family.
way.
Totally.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's my number 2.
That's
And I have to mention that the idea of coming into the snack bar or the projection booth and just, come on in, let's watch a movie. That doesn't happen anywhere else.
No.
Could you imagine a first-run theater or indoor theater coming down to the seats and saying, "You guys want to come back to the,
Right.
to the break room and whatever it is,
I mean,
hang in the lobby with us?"
I even mentioned to you recently, driving by me, how challenging it was to get someone to ask someone to turn their headlights off. And I had already asked them nicely. And then I went to the ticket booth. They said, go to the snack bar. And then they said, maybe you should call the phone number. I'm like, what?
Call the number. I'm here now.
Right.
I'm
like,
talking to you.
This would never have to happen at the Mahoning.
Yeah, presentation is everything. And
Right.
believe me, like we've heard those complaints about the headlights, the loud people, the stuff like that. We try to hit all those things right before we get to screen. We do that sweep. We make sure that the presentation is going to be as clean as possible. But, they come from everywhere.
Oh, yeah. And you guys are really nice about it, too.
Sure.
It's not like...
Yeah, it's not like you're being Nazis about it, right?
Get out of here.
Get out. Get out, you.
Although
pesky kids.
we have joked about sending Carl around with a bat.
When it gets real bad.
One night this season, it was so bad, and
It's always the same guy.
it was more than one person.
Right.
It was like here, it was there, it was here, it was everywhere.
But they repeat.
And I was like, and I said, I swear to God, next time I'm coming with a baseball bat, I'm just going to walk around the lot and just start smashing headlights. Even though I'm sure that's frowned upon these days. Old Carl 15 years, 20 years ago would have had no problem doing that. But I'm an older guy now, and that's kind of...
Yeah, but
like I
Star
said,
Trek
frowned
definitely is in that category as well. Where
oh, please.
That was before we hit that fandom level. People were still discovering us. Now that would crush.
I think that would totally... I think you'd sell out the whole lot, honestly.
Yeah.
That would be a big draw.
I'm
honestly.
actually surprised you didn't pick that as number 1.
No, because I'm a purist with firsts.
Okay.
Especially first films. Remember we did that sequel top 5.
Yeah.
So I got to go with my first time, my first exposure to this place,
Gotcha.
and my initial swoon, if you will, over everything.
Right.
And I was just like,
Well, that's how I was with Go Ape Weekend.
Yeah.
Star Trek was, the
Steal
Planet
my
of the Apes
cinematic
movie.
heart.
Right.
Yeah.
So number 2 for me, again, hits me right in the soft spot. The very first VHS Fest weekend.
Ooh, that was
Now,
legend.
yeah, I know that's not Carl's thing, but having grown up in that, went through the drive-in phase, cable TV, video stores, all that, and running a video store. We've had conversations about that. Man, there was nothing quite like when the rain hit and everyone rushed out to the video store and you're calling for help. I need backup. I need more people. It's raining out. Everybody's trying to rent movies. So VHS Fest. Yeah, it wasn't so much the films, but just, again, you guys, when you embrace something, it's all in.
Yeah.
The vendors, tapes, the films, it was just amazing. The love for for VHS.
That first VHS Fest leveled us up. And every year we seem to have at least one show that really raises the bar for us in what we do. And that idea came so kind of organically with the connection to Josh and Lunch Meat, being friends with a couple of my buddies, and the idea of showing love to VHS movies. We've had finally figured out how to put, quote unquote, digital up on screen,
right,
where we could play VCR tapes and put them up there. But that's one I remember was the first time I really questioned a booking. If you remember, we booked Faces of Death that first...
The second night of the
that first year.
Yeah, you did.
And I remember we made the announcement. We used to trickle out titles after the event was released. We used to be like, okay, now here's what's going to be playing. And our Faces of Death, some people were just like, Faces of Death? What are you guys, nuts? Faces of Death? But it was what we played it like the fourth movie at like
second
3
night.
in the morning,
Yeah,
second night.
Yeah.
But one of those things that really just showed how hard we were going to push that envelope to say, if we're jumping into the VHS era, this is a pretty important piece of that VHS era.
Oh, hell
It's
yeah.
like the number one passed around in neighborhood movies, But that's a great one. I got a soft spot.
And
for
before that, I was going to Stroudsburg for the VHS Fest and then coming here after.
That's right.
So you guys brought it here. I'm like, look at that. One trip and done.
Crazy.
The whole weekend. You're still doing it.
Yep.
So
Yeah, VHS Fest.
Number 2.
Yep, coming soon.
Off to you, Carl.
All right, number 3. I'm going to go with Weekend of Terror number 1. And that was September 30th and October 1st, 2016.
Headliner of the night of the show?
I Spit on Your Grave.
Wow.
Also, Bay of Blood and Death Weekend. Those were the standouts for me. Oh, Texas Chainsaw, of course. Blood Spattered Bride, I Dismember Mama. That whole
right.
weekend
That is a...
was just nonstop, boom, 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 with heavy hitters.
Yeah.
On that first Weekend of Terror. So that's my number 3.
Harry came out swinging
Oh.
with that one. And a lot of people, they always say, Weekend of Terror is my jam, or Schlock is my jam. Certain ones they know to expect a certain kind of angle.
Oh, yeah.
So it must have been year 2 that he headlined Texas Chainsaw. Or was that year 1?
That was the first Weekend of Terror.
First Weekend of Terror,
Yeah.
Texas Chainsaw.
Yep, that's on the T-shirt.
That's
Yeah.
right, with the buzz coming. Yeah.
I wasn't there, but I got a free T-shirt.
Yes.
So I remember
to commemorate.
that, yeah.
That was a fun one. That was a really fun one.
Okay, over to me. We're now on number 3, right?
Number 3.
Gotta go Schlockorama.
There it is.
Which one?
First one?
The first one with Frankenstein meets the space monster.
That really set
A
the
movie
bar.
I'd seen many times as a kid. And I think most people that love those Schlockorama shows, it really hits you in that young age
Yep.
of B movies.
Yes.
And
It's
then
stuff
this
that I saw on
year's-
Saturday afternoon TV.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's stuff that you saw and then later ended up on like Mystery
Yep.
Science Theater. But it is a little niche of B movies that you don't see anymore at any drive-in.
Yeah.
Even when they do retro occasionally, they'll never play this stuff. So to see that here, Killer Weekend, the one for this year is even better.
Insanity.
Right? William
Yes.
Castle. Who doesn't love William
The Castle
Castle?
Night, like,
Right.
as soon as Harry started going after these titles, and I requested a few from the studios for him, I was just like, bro, this is magic. Going after the...
That's what it is.
The thing with Schlock, the quadruple feature.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. We talked
Harry,
about that.
ooh, Harry loves those quadruple features.
Yeah.
And originally he pitched it as, look, these are Schlock titles, they're real short, and sometimes that is the case. Like for
Sometimes.
for the Castle titles, some of those run like 64 minutes, something like that. But like, I remember there was a couple years where you're
Well,
like,
last year.
oh my
Last
God.
year ran late.
Everything was at least 90 minutes last year. And previously,
The
they had
sun's
all been
coming up.
70 minutes or less.
Yep. And then you
So,
get
yeah.
the intermission, 3 intermissions in there.
Oh, God.
You're literally fighting the sun, and it's one of those things. I always look forward to that weekend, but know that it's going to be a long one.
But
you
the
know?
titles are killer.
Yeah.
So you desperately want to make it to the end of those nights.
Oh yeah. There's not a dud in the batch,
No. I want to see every single movie this weekend. I was saying to Beth, I'm like, I'll work intermissions, I'll work before the show, but you will not be seeing me during these films. Just so you know.
Not gonna happen.
And she said, I think we're just going to have the kids run the stand. Because I want to see them all. She's a huge Vincent Price fan, so
yeah.
she's like, I'm not missing the Tingler.
Yeah.
And let's not forget Ed Wood.
And Ed
That's
Wood.
right.
Yeah.
And Freaks. Yeah, it's a solid.
Which I've talked to people on the lot. They haven't seen an Ed Wood film yet.
We've
Really?
never played an Ed Wood film here.
Right.
We've
Wow.
never played an Ed
And
Wood film.
he's notorious for being the worst filmmaker ever.
He's not.
So wrong. So entertaining.
Oh, yeah. That's perfect drive-in fare
Right.
That's the type of thing where we might have to keep people from mystery sciencing out just because they're having such
Yeah.
a good time.
Yeah.
So there you go. There's my
That's a
number
great
3.
one. I love it.
See, my number 4 is your number 3, Schlockorama 1. That was July 28th and 29th, 2017. Frankenstein meets the Space Monster for me. Blood Feast and Astro Zombies. Those are my standouts.
That's right. And didn't somebody dress as the Astro Zombie? Or they were walking around with the big head?
I believe somebody did, yeah.
That was Eric, and it was the mutant from This Island Earth.
That was
Oh,
it.
okay,
That was
all
it.
right.
I have a great photo of him and me, and he has that big mask on. Oh, it was so much fun. So much fun.
But that was my number 4, and I gotta echo Darryl's sentiment. I love all those 50s, 60s movies. I can't get enough of them. I watch them anytime. To me, those are comfort food films for me.
Yep.
And it's just like Darryl also said, this year's is proving to be absolute amazing.
Absolutely.
So.
This is taking me down memory lane, guys. This is fun. This is fun.
Number 4. Number 4 is not actually a favorite movie, but it was everything that was going on that night, which is happens at the Mahoning.
Part of it is the experience. It's not
this one
just
was
about the movie.
all the
Sometimes it becomes secondary.
So last year was a crazy year with COVID and stuff.
Oh, God.
It was?
You're kidding. You don't say.
So obviously this was like a beacon of like hope and like love, and like you couldn't go to concerts, you couldn't do a lot of stuff.
This was
but
the
you had-
only game in town.
Right.
I mean, in a lot of towns, actually.
Right.
I
Towns
dare
even
say
3.5 hours from here.
Oh,
wouldn't
yes.
it? Yeah. So yeah, last summer, I mean, there were so many great events, but this one, not my favorite, but turned out to be my favorite for a number of reasons. So Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 and 3.
Yes.
Right?
That was our
Last show of the year.
Last show of the year.
Mhm.
So you're kind of like, oh, we made it through another year. It was a crazy night. The weather was
The
insane.
winds. That's right.
it was wind and rain.
I couldn't.
Were you
believe-
inside when we lost the power?
Oh, that's
I was.
right.
Well, that's part of the story.
Yes.
I was
first-
working the lot that
Yes.
night.
So I was. Oh, that was the first time I unofficially volunteered. I think that was the night where Carl was out helping with the traffic outside, and I saw the issue with people, too far into the road. So
Yes.
I actually parked my car and got out and walked down the road and asked people to move
Nice.
over so traffic could come through.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that was cool. I did something that was
Helpful.
helpful to the drive-in, helpful to the people trying to drive by the chaos.
Sure.
And but the weather was insane. In fact, it reminded me of the Wizard of Oz. I really thought there was going to be a tornado in the distance come ripping through.
It was scary. Like, no
Right?
joke.
The
We
wind.
had. Do you remember the line? So
Yeah.
we had.
Oh, yeah.
The stand was closed all year last year, but we decided because the weather was terrible that night and it's our last show, let's open up the stand, let's put Bill Moseley inside, we'll have the line work its way outside, which sure enough it did, but it wrapped around and sat right in front of the merch tent. This wind was whipping and the tent was bending. I was like, people are risking their lives to come and see Bill Moseley tonight, But yeah, that was a scary one.
That's what made the night. The fact that everybody in line was still having fun, didn't care. When we were inside, the power was going out.
Flickering.
Bill Moseley was totally chill with it. He wasn't flipping out. He's like, whatever, we'll have fun. It was just that, holy shit, this could be the end of the world tonight, but we're having fun.
But
so
we're
it didn't
in
even.
our place.
Yeah, and we've often joked about, the diehards, it's almost like if the projectors didn't work, get a flashlight, we'll do hand puppets on the
Right.
screen.
Yeah.
It's
We'll
about
still have a great
right. It's about the hangout.
Yeah.
You don't get that at every drive-in. You might
No.
get some retro features. They might be digital, even if Carl hates it. But you don't get that hang. That like, let's get there early so we can chat, we made some friends a few weeks ago at a Patreon screening.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right? So we're like, what are their names? We got to remember them. I've seen them before.
Yeah, us old guys, we can't remember
right?
jack about people's
Bring them
names.
into the group. So that's number 4, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 and 3, the last show of last year for all those reasons. Not really so much the movies, but just the experience and the fact that it seemed like it was the end of the world, but we're still having fun.
Yeah, that's true.
As REM would say.
I feel fine.
Right?
That's a great one.
All right, final number 5 for me. Real Weird Weekend number 1. That was August 31st, September 1st, and September 2nd, 2018. The standouts for me, Hausu and Zardoz.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Zardoz is. There's certain people that know me close. Now everyone's gonna know. Certain movies turn on the waterworks for me.
Yeah,
And
Zardoz is one?
Zardoz is one.
That's amazing.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah,
That's incredible.
The end of Zardoz, when
you
that
cry?
Beethoven score comes. I think it was Symphony Number 7, if I'm not mistaken. And that whole progression of time when they all become mortal, and I just start bawling. And
never knew
here
that.
was no exception. Everyone was making fun of me in the front row. So, are you crying? No, man, you're crying. And I said, yeah, I'm crying. So what? I'm crying. That's one of the movies that makes me cry. So seeing that on 35...
With Hausu, was that the same night?
I think it was the second...
Separate?
separate nights.
So
but still, Hausu on the first night for me, Zardoz on the second for me.
good.
And I was just like, you know.
Yep, in cinema heaven.
Yeah, cinema heaven. Another bucket list item for me achieved with Zardoz.
Checked off.
Because that's one of my all-time favorites.
I love that.
By the way, we have done a top 5 movies that make you cry, and I
Ooh.
don't remember the Zardoz.
It's in there.
Was it?
It's
of
up there.
course. Now I know it. So. Number 5 for me is so tough because it's from this year, and it's like a tie between 3 movies. My 100th film, which was your first spaghetti western, something we all love, and Morricone, which always makes me cry.
Yep. Morricone all night. All night, all day. For
It's so tough. It's a tie between these. I'm going to have to break it. The Wild World of David Lynch.
That was a great one.
That's a love of a filmmaker I share with my son.
Mm-hmm.
He came out. We did the cosplay thing.
Right, yes.
So it's so tough to pick out of it. And then Zombie Fest, which had some of the worst weather I
That's
remember
right.
ever.
7 years, no rain, all came in one day.
Right, but that also included a lot of volunteering that weekend, helping JT with the whole shark zombie thing.
Yes.
I'm telling you, when we came up with the idea to shoot the shadow play in front of that screen, it brought me back to being a 12-year-old with a Super 8 camera.
Yep.
I'm like,
Let's work this
I
magic.
love this. Let's do this. We had problems with the weather and the fact that you guys, this creative bunch of people, we all shot ideas out on how to handle the rain, the guests. And Virgil, man, you were so open to like anybody's idea. Now, like, I'm the boss here. Here's how we're going to do it. Somebody would throw an idea and you would be like, yeah, let's try that.
Yeah.
You know, we were doing tarps and all sorts of
That's
things.
right.
Let's figure this thing
Yeah.
out. So I think for that reason, and you guys surprised me with the birthday thing.
Yes.
The birthday thing, the crappy weather, the great movies, the volunteering, helping JT with that damn shark.
There was a lot going.
Yeah,
for
there
it,
was.
for sure.
That rises to the top. So
Man.
that one hits me in the heart.
That's amazing.
That one I threw on is my number 5.
Well, so now I do consider you a legitimate volunteer. Did that start this year? I always just assume, hey, if Darryl's on the lot, just
think-
like Carl, I have
think-
somebody I can go to.
Yeah, I think so. I think I just kind of, I'm not, Carl talked about that being you're out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been coming here for years, but I'm not one to like hang out in the projection booth because I'm always like, those guys are working.
Right.
I meet people and have great conversations. I met Mark that first year. And I've been coming for years, and like they sort of know me as that old guy that shows up. Right? I wouldn't go out of my way to announce myself, hey, I'm here. And it just came natural. Like I said, last year, just helping out Carl. And I'm like, if I can get here early, whatever I can do. Can I take out the garbage? Can I do this? I'll help lift something, move something. JT especially. Helping him, as challenging as that can be.
Oh, yeah.
And you got to get him on the podcast. Because he has such attention to detail.
He's a spark of creativity that's so essential to what we do here.
In fact, I remember the first time I met him wasn't here. It was in Blairstown, and he was getting in the full Jason outfit.
Yes, that's right.
And I sort of knew him as a friend of Steven Demers. And I was helping him with his makeup, and then we went through town, and he was scaring people and getting photo ops with all the good-looking girls.
Yep,
pull up the machete. That was the first time I met him.
Yeah.
So, and I helped him last night with some barrels. I don't know. So, it's unofficial, official.
Well, Mark puts it great. It's like a punch card. You come enough times and we're going to ask you to work for us. But
you don't even have to ask. You don't have to ask. I just felt like if I can get here early and help out whatever is official or unofficial,
right,
I'm going to help out.
That's the thing I love is you guys, just like us, have become authorities here. People come in and they're brand new to not just the Mahoning, but a drive-in in general. And to have guys that are kind of placed around the lot at all times to answer those basic questions, it makes all the difference. Instead of somebody blindly being like, how does this work? It's like, oh, I'll happily tell you. Welcome to the family, It does. The camaraderie and what the Mahoning means to the fans and our extended community, it's so much more than movies. It breaks down to it's our gathering place. It's our happy place. It's where we can all come together and be ourselves,
No, sure.
And I think Carl said it about the things that you love. You want to see it succeed and thrive. Because a lot of what we loved is now gone. Video stores aren't around.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of drive-ins have closed. So you want to help that thing thrive, and the Patreon thing helps.
Yeah.
And then just,
Well, that's the biggest challenge of this whole thing, I've said it to Mark that we are in a state of the worst scenario could happen to us. Literally the worst scenario, but because of what we have built, what we have garnished over the last couple of years, there is a spiritual energy around what the Mahoning is that it's almost infamous, it's almost invincible, to have that type of love and that type of dig into people's hearts. I think it will be, forever our mainstay calling card,
Oh, yeah.
But, so we're getting close to showtime. I guess we should say we are recording this literally amongst the E7s. We're sitting in the projection booth together.
Surrounded by... My knee is resting against Death Race 2000.
Yes, be careful. That's a rare print.
It is. And one by one, the staff are arriving to punch in. So
we're thinking we're going to wrap this up. But this won't be the last time that we have you guys on. This
Not at
was
all.
really, really fun.
Cool.
Going down... the memory rabbit hole, remembering some shows that we haven't thought about in a long time. I love that, and again, it gives people the perspective to say, I'm somebody who comes there because I love 35 millimeter. So it creates, again, the solidifying of our community and what we're about. So, well, I thank you guys for making the time. Mark, I thank you for dealing with the flies. And again,
thank you guys.
You guys mean the world to us. The reason we like doing this is it doesn't just shine a light on the fans and what it means to be a Mahoning fan, but it shows the extension of our family. This isn't just the core couple people running the business. It takes a literal army of people and support to have the Mahoning be what it is. So we love you guys.
Well, we love you.
You're the best. We're gonna have a great time tonight. It's going to be a great time tonight. And again, if you guys are loving what you're hearing, support the Patreon. The guys will tell you the Patreon screenings are like religious experiences here. You don't only get Mark on the mic, you don't only get rare clips from the archives, but you get some choice titles too.
And the waterbed commercial.
Oh.
You won't see anywhere
That has become legend.
That is something I own. And it is a Patreon exclusive. You will not see that anywhere else.
You won't.
and you will not see it at any Mahoning show that it's not a Patriot.
No
It's
matter,
worth
no matter
your
how
time.
much I've been begging.
Nope.
It's worth your time just to be here to see the waterbed trailer.
Pretty much, yeah.
Such a strange thing, you know? Like, that played in theaters at one point.
That was an
Just-
ad for a Chicago waterbed company that probably played in local theaters back
pimping
in
waterbeds.
the late 70s, early 80s. Yeah.
It could be the next Ricos.
I think
Oh,
it
maybe
really-
maybe one of the greatest clips of 35 I've ever seen. All right, guys. On that note, Jeff, take it away, my friend.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks again for coming out tonight to the Mahoning Drive-In Theater. We hope you'll come back and see us again real soon. The exit is on the right-hand side of the screen at the front of the field, and most importantly, have a very safe trip home. Good night and God bless you.